Yo, what is up, Kings? I hope all is well. I wanted to discuss the war that is brewing within the Republican Party, and more specifically within the quote unquote conservative movement. So, I've talked about this before in the past. This is not a newfound idea that I've had, or that others have had for that matter. There have been many people, many prominent right-wing figures that have detailed either why they aren't supporting Trump, why they aren't supporting the Republican Party. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the conservative or the Republican Party kind of continuously toggles back and forth between acting as though they are staunch believers in traditionalism. On one hand, they will benefit from going against transgender issues or men's and women's sports, things of that nature. That would probably be the biggest one. On one hand, they talk about that, but on the other, and I just saw a funny meme about this where there's a character that they draw it's kind of hard to describe. It's the white drawn individual that kind of looks like average looking, and he's wearing a MAGA hat, and he's looking at a picture of an actual person with a pride flag, and he's upset. And then the other picture right below it is him in the same MAGA hat, but he has a happy face because the person with the LGBTQ plus flag is also wearing a MAGA hat. And it really just goes to show the contradiction that is really starting to exist within the conservative movement. And that's kind of the thing. And a lot of the Republican candidates will, on one hand, call these things out and capitalize and get political brownie points. But on the other, they will allow for these type of people to be in their cabinet. I mean, Trump has chosen several of those people. Another that literally are absolutely self-described homosexuals. Another common thing is the bringing forth of the idea of patriarchy and this combatants of feminism in the alternative media, especially on the right wing. One of the main talking points is the combatants of feminism. I've talked about it a lot. I know a lot of content creators have discussed it a lot. Andrew Wilson, plenty of others, and I'm sure that you know this. Even the kind of what I would describe as vanilla conservatives, Steven Crowder, the Blaze individuals, Daily Wire individuals, they will discuss how feminism is bad, yet simultaneously, and this includes, again, Republican candidates, how men are falling behind, how men are being disenfranchised. Hell, if you look at the Republican Party, the reason why they did so well in 2024 is because of how many white men voted for them, but specifically men voted for them. And so in the alternative media space, it is a common thing to discuss, like, repealing whatever amendment it is. I think it's the 14th or 15th Amendment, to repeal that to get America and the West back on track, specifically America, because it is well known that in modern politics, women far outweigh or excuse me, far outvote in favor of liberalism and liberal policies than conservative ones or traditional ones, especially single women. Myron Gaines talks about this because women tend to come from the perspective of kind of this egalitarian, community-based. We all need to be in this same pot where we all are receiving the same benefits. We're all, and it's just kind of the natural inclination of women, which is to pool resources. Everybody gets a share. Everybody gets a piece. This kind of faux niceness, when in reality, if you try and do that, and you try to have a lot of people, 9 times out of 10, if you try and have a lot of people have something, usually they don't have very much of it. And there's really no incentive for that group to have any sort of abundance of whatever resource or material that you're talking about, because no matter how hard they work, no matter how well they do, no matter how good they are at what they do, no matter what, everybody's going to have an equal piece, in theory. And so women just kind of view the world in kind of this communitarian, community-based system, and so they tend to vote liberal. And so a common thing that is discussed in right-wing spaces is that women shouldn't vote. And on top of that, it's mainly coming from a place of traditionalism, that men are supposed to be the leaders. Men are supposed to be the ones that are out and about in society, being the mentors, the leaders, the instructors. But you'll see across the board with all these people who on one hand will discuss this and will point out the degeneracy, but on the other, they will have zero issues, zero qualms with Trump, for example, choosing several women to be in positions of prominence within his cabinet. Rachel Wilson has documented this. This happens all the time. Matter of fact, Trump just selected a woman in place of Matt Gaetz for a hugely important position. I believe it was Attorney General. So you are starting to see a theological war brewing, infighting, if you will, and it's happening on both sides. And I've talked about this many times. I'm not going to talk about it a ton as far as the liberal side goes, but suffice it to say, you have the more populist, left leaning individuals like a Bernie Sanders, Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur's nephew, whatever his name is, probably like a Vaush would probably fall under that. And then you have more kind of classical liberals, Democrats, if you will, that kind of go for the establishment candidates and kind of establishment talking points. You can see this with the mainstream media. You can see this with somebody like Destiny, and they're kind of having a war brew as well, especially in lieu of Kamala Harris, who was very much an establishment candidate who was running. So, but going back to the right wing, it's just, in so many ways, this is coming forth. And the main example that I want to give you guys is there's a Twitter handle. It's the Gay Republican. And he posted a picture of himself and this guy, Scott Presler. And I had actually seen Scott Presler before in the past on YouTube. I remember seeing some of his content, and he purported to be a Christian and a massive Republican. And in a lot of ways, he was doing good work. It's, these people who have and live these sort of lifestyles, it's not to say that they don't occasionally do good work and they don't work hard at what they do, because a lot of them definitely do. And I remember seeing him, but how he spoke, I knew that he was likely a homosexual. And I hadn't seen him for a while. I didn't even know if he was still around and about and doing his thing, if you will. And suffice it to say, he is. And so there was a post from the Gay Republican. I'm going to read it. It's behind my phone here. I can't believe it. The other day I posted this picture of Scott Presler and me. And essentially what it was is, give me your thoughts on us two being openly homosexual individuals and helping Donald Trump get elected. And mind you, I also talked about Vivek Ramaswamy going, and there's a lot that Vivek says that I like. But if, for me personally, I would not have those good things overshadow and kind of take my vote or whatever the case. I'm done doing that if they aren't going to satisfy the traditional Christian ethical value stances. And so in this picture, and so I talked about that in the past, Vivek Ramaswamy went to a gay Republicans event or gay voters event and tried to get them to vote for Trump. Saying, that Trump was not like anti-gay or whatever, in a nutshell. And so this picture that the Gay Republican posted was of him and Scott Presler, and as I said, saying, let me know what you guys think about this, kind of in a sassy way. And then everybody responded to it, and shocker, many right-wing prominent figures were like, no, this is not okay. This is not acceptable. You need to repent of your sins. In the past, you've had individuals like Milo Yiannopoulos. I mean, this is not a new thing. It's a common trope. It's a thing that is made fun of with regards to the Republican Party, is that they have so many homosexual men. And so this post said, not from left, we were absolutely attacked, not from the left, but from the far right. Right. Yeah, the far right. I am heartbroken. I've dedicated a decade of my life to this movement. All Republicans aren't like this. ... Right? And so, I take issue with that in a variety of ways. I don't think that it is only far right individuals that think this way. I think it's many average right-wing individuals, conservatives, that feel this way. People are not. I acknowledge that not everybody is as unplugged and red-pilled and dissident as I myself am. But I think most conservatives feel this way. But there are also a lot of conservatives that don't think about this deeply and ask themselves, is this truly okay? What are we fighting for if not for traditional values? What are we conserving if not for traditional values? What type of society are we trying to live in if we aren't trying to bring back a Christian society? And so I think there is a lot of coping that goes on in the right wing. And you see this by Donald Trump decisively beating Kamala. Now, was that more of a statement on Trump's popularity or on Kamala's lack of popularity? Time will tell. I know for me, as I said, I am done looking past these things because it's not sufficient. It's not okay. And when I ask myself those questions, I do want to bring back an America First Christian nation. That is what I am trying to preserve, what the type of society that I want to live in. And more to the point, that is the type of representation that I want. And if I'm not going to get it, then I'm not going to vote for you. So, very, very interesting. I love talking about this stuff because, it's really coming. It really is coming down the pipeline, and No pun intended. And you know, if you go on X for 10 minutes, you can see this being the case. And especially with Trump's early cabinet picks and stuff, and I knew this was going to be the case. I'm not surprised by it in the slightest. And so another main thing is kind of like the future of the Republican Party after Trump is gone. And you know, it really is seeming like the neocons have won. You know, Trump, when he first started, was very much a reactionary, nationalistic, America first. I wouldn't ever say that he was like a full-blown Christian advocate and Christian fundamentals and traditionalism advocate, but you know, he wasn't like he is now. Okay, so you know, because at the end of the day, what I want to leave you guys with is, as a conservative, and I've already said this in this video, what are your goals? What world are you looking to commence and be brought forth? What do you see as the major issues? Is it merely taxes? Is it merely economic? Because if that's the case, then you probably are a neocon. That is the only thing that separates people like J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and a lot of the prominent Republican figures between themselves and liberals is their stance on taxes and how to distribute taxes and how to administer taxes. And maybe their foreign policy on economics. That's really it. Because even the Kamala's most recent campaign, they were saying that they were going to stop illegal immigration, and because that is like that's like the most popular issue that a lot of Americans agree on is stopping illegal immigration on some level. And so even Kamala was advocating for that. So you can't even say that that's what separates her and Donald Trump at this point, or her, Joe Biden, or whoever. Now, you know, whether you believe that they actually believe that is another question. But then again, if you question her for that, then you have to question Trump as well. I hate to tell you. That's really it. Like, what world are you trying to bring forward? Do you care just for tax cuts, or are you somebody that cares about the rest of it? These social issues, schmortion, transgenderism, children's rights, and how our children are cared for and protected in the United States. A lot of these social issues are a big deal. And that, to me, is the biggest thing that separates what type of conservative you are. And for me, I used to be the latter, but I am no longer. My politics is dictated far more by my Christianity and my Christian worldview, and it's just going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. It really is, and I think most conservatives are conservatives because they are Christians, because they are traditional individuals that believe. Oh, another issue is the declining birth rate. That's another reason why illegal immigration has been allowed to happen, because people are not having kids anymore. And why is that? Why do we have a society? Well, it goes to how our men and women are being raised, what they're being taught, the values that are being instilled in them. You know, for example, like me, and I've talked about this in the past, I lean towards capitalism being probably the best system that we can have from an economic standpoint, but it definitely has its drawbacks. And that doesn't mean that you can't have certain checks on a capitalistic society Because right now, the sort of capitalistic society that we have is a society that promotes individualism, materialism, and what you're seeing as an afterthought because of that, or an after effect because of all that, is people just focus on themselves. They don't want to have kids. They are searching for pleasure hits, dopamine hits, and they don't feel any sort of duty and responsibility to the society that they live in. And that's just what it is. Social media also plays a factor. How about Elon Musk? This affects everything. Elon Musk, yes, him buying X and promoting it as close to a free speech platform as we've seen in a long time is great. But conversely, he also is a technocrat, and he wants to, have us go to Mars and explore the galaxy and possibly put chips in our minds. And, I personally haven't looked into that too much, but some of the people that I've seen saying it, I think they're likely telling the truth. So all of this new technology, how do we view it? What are our moral views on this technological age that we're living in? Are there going to be any checks and balances on it like we see in other countries like China and Russia? Sure, those places aren't perfect, but I would dare say that they have far more well-functioning, fully functioning members of society and adults being made and produced on a year-to-year basis, even though they might, especially China, be having a population issue, than we see in the United States. In the United States, kids, by the time they're 18, most of them are in an arrested state of development because of social media, because of this selfish mindset that they have had and been taught and been persuaded to have since they were old enough to think semi for themselves, 10 to 15 years old. I mean, they've had it for as long as they can remember. And you think it's easier or harder for them to lose that when they become 18 years old? It's easier. Or excuse me, it's harder. It's harder. Sorry. So, this whole thing really, really, it affects everything. And as a conservative, you need to ask yourself what type of conservative you are, because this is affecting everything. And there are some major issues that are being worked out in the marketplace of ideas, in the type of society that is emerging out of kind of this soft collapse that America is experiencing, that the West is experiencing. So, for me, just to answer the question for myself, I would be in favor, because I don't want kids to be propagandized, and I do think that overall it is good for kids to inherit responsibility, duty. The housing crisis, that's a little bit, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily spiritual, but from pretty much every standpoint, our kids growing into adulthood have zero incentive to, outside of their own innate desire, selfish desires for themselves, to be great, to do great things, to be responsible, to be good people. They likely won't own a home until they're 30. A lot of young men won't be able to get girls, so they don't have incentives there, because increasingly women really only go after the top whatever percent of men within this bullshit society that we currently have. And so all of these incentives are going away. And then you add on top of it social media, the digital age that we live in. And I do think that there should be some sort of restrictions that are placed on it. It shouldn't be this unchecked, unfettered access to the internet. You have pornography and all of that. You know, I always see stories about these pornography sites who, thought that they checked the ID of a girl. It turns out that she's 15 years old, or and so there's so many things that are emerging in our society that still need to be worked out. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I could go on and on about this, but suffice it to say, guys, a lot of these things need to be worked out. And as a conservative, if you believe yourself to be conservative, I think it's responsible and paramount of you to ask yourself and internally question yourself on kind of what your foundational beliefs are. What is your foundation in which everything stems from? And, when I did that for myself, I realized that my foundational beliefs and everything that my ethics stem from is my Christian background. And so that derives and moves outwardly towards my politics. So, it's simple, guys. It's called an internal critique. So, anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. This is just like a random quick video that I wanted to do on this. Like I said, I'm going to have more time in the future to be making content. Let me know if you guys like this kind of quick hitter Rode mic setup here, in which I kind of just go off. I mean, in my videos, I kind of just go off no matter what. But you guys get the point. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. It really helps the algorithm out. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. And facts are feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, kings. I'll see you guys next time. Christ is king. Peace.